We backed Scott Darley up with Representative Tim Burchett. I told you it would be a congressional power hour, and Representative Burchett joins us to reflect on, well, the conversation that we've been having with Scott. Hey, Tim, how are you?
I'm well, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for your no vote over this stopgap spending measure. I think the people of your district and the people of the state of Tennessee appreciate that. Give us your overview on what went down this weekend.
Well, basically, we abdicated our duties. We're supposed to really do two things: pass a budget and 12 appropriations bills. We did, I think, 4 appropriations bills, and we never even cracked open a budget. We have totally sold out to the uniparty, in my opinion. We will continue to do so. We push this latest one up to, guess what, Thanksgiving holiday. And I bet you they'll come out with a sweet little omnibus package that only leadership and a few of the anointed ones will know what's in it. So that's kind of where we're at. And that's Washington pretty much 101.
Well, and I know you know this, and I know Scott, who was on right before you, knows this. I feel like most that they get it, then McCarthy or someone in leadership would step forward today and say the House of Representatives is staying in Washington, D.C. until we get the job done. We are set. Yeah, but they won't do that.
They won't do that. That's why we weren't there the whole month of August, because they had all their sweet little trips planned. You see, I was going to come on here and play nice. But, you know, they had all their little trips, and they call them CODELs, congressional delegations, flying all over the world. And some of them are important, you know, and you get asked to go on if you're in kind of in the loop, or if they think you're playing ball with them. And then you go and, you know, you have a fancy state dinners with the speaker and all of them, and then you sell your soul, basically. And that's why we're $33 trillion in debt, brother.
So what is your do you expect an omnibus? I mean, because I understand even if you corral the House, the Senate will just sit on this thing because they think they can sit on it for 30 days and blame the Republicans and get what they want out of it.
Because we don't have any guts. We said during the debt ceiling, let's put a stake in the sand. Let's tell the Senate what we think. But all of a sudden, we're not putting a stake in the sand for this. We're just going to continue down this path of kicking the can down the road, and we will be $34 trillion in debt. And I'll tell you this, you know, everybody was worried about the being the shutdown going to be harmful. Well, when this economy crashes and the dollar is worth nothing, you see people pushing a wheelbarrow full of cash to get a loaf of bread, as you did pre-World War II Europe. Then you'll look back and go, maybe we should have been a little smarter. Maybe we shouldn't agreed to send 114 billion unchecked dollars to Ukraine. Maybe we should have secured our border against drug dealers and human traffickers. Maybe we should have had some fiscal restraint. I mean, I saw today where they're sending a few $1 million to Morocco for global warming, something, how it affects small children and women. And that's your tax dollars right there. And we barely got $700 for the poor people who lost everything in dadgum Maui, you know, and then you send the FEMA over there and they're staying in 4-star hotels, and, you know, it's just out of control. And we've got to have somebody in leadership that voices our concerns and says that enough is enough, because we're not doing that right now.
Are you in favor of a motion to vacate?
Well, here's my dilemma. Kevin McCarthy's my friend, and he's been nice to me, and I get all that. But my conscience says, you know, we need to keep our word, and we have not kept our word. Leadership said we were going to release the January 6 tapes. We were going to have a term limits bill on the floor. We were going to have some fiscal sanity, several other things. And they haven't done that. They have not done that. This is just a return to the same old. There was no intent to pass a budget. We had Jody Arrington out of Texas, be a good one to get on. he chairs the budget committee, and lo and behold, he has a budget. I used to be on the budget committee. I asked to be taken off because we didn't do it. We didn't do a budget. Now I come off and they do a budget. So anyway, and Congress hasn't done a budget in 30 years. And if you know anything about Tennessee, they have a budget and they follow it and they balance their budget. So what we do is pass a CR, a continuing resolution, and then we just continue with the spending prior to that, the Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer policies.
Tim, hold on just a second if you can. Ask Tim if he can hold over, because this is such an important conversation, and I appreciate what he just said. I want to explore it a little bit further. If you don't keep your word, then we have to pull the lever, and we have to look to new leadership. Who might that be? I don't think Tim Burchett. Matt Gaetz oftentimes shoots off at the mouth without having an end game. I don't think Tim Burchett does that. So we'll hopefully be able to explore that in just a moment. It's 12:53 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Download the TuneIn app so you can take WTN with you wherever you go.
My telephone silenced. Thank goodness for Representative Tim Burchett as well. He stuck around. He hung on the line because we wanted to finish this conversation. It's simultaneously, I feel like it's a complex story that needs to be told, but it's not that complex. We continue to overspend. We continue to do the same thing, expecting a different result. And it's high time that we, at some point, draw a line in the sand and say no more. Congressman Burchett mentioned that, we kind of did that during the debt ceiling debate or earlier in the year. One would think that we would be willing to do it again. We were just getting into the concept of leadership, Congressman, and I thank you for spending some extra time with us because I wanted to explore that further. You mentioned that McCarthy is a friend. It's my understanding. I mean, you don't become Speaker of the House without making good bonds and friendships. At the same time, it is a performance-based position, and some in the House of Representatives have suggested that maybe we need to look to others for leadership in the Republican caucus. What say you about that?
Yeah, and that's where I'm torn. I'm going to have to make a decision. I mean, I'm no Riley Gaines or anything. It's just something that's going to propel me to the national spotlight either way. I'll probably be hated by a lot of the beautiful people and the uniparty people, and I suspect my contributions will suffer for it, and they might beat me on it. But you just sometimes got to take a stand, and that's kind of where I'm at. And I haven't really officially decided or announced where I'm going to go yet on this thing anyway. But that's the tough thing for me, and just my conscience versus trying to keep my friendship with the Speaker of the House, which politically is the best thing to do because, you get invited on the trips, you get to go to the steak dinners and you get all the beautiful stuff or you don't. And that's kind of the game you play in D.C. And that if you don't know that going in, you're an idiot. And I just, I never played the game very well.
I'm curious. Let's deal with leadership as it exists right now. And, we could easily speculate on where this might be going. And I don't think any of us know where it would end. If there's a vote to vacate the chair, then, where does it go from there? Then you've got Democrats involved. But the
reality is it probably won't pass. And the reality, further than that, it probably will never come to a vote because there'll be enough Democrats and Republicans that want to keep Kevin in power, and they'll vote to either send it to a committee to study or to vote on, or they will rule on it right there if to take a vote on it. You can make a motion to do that. And so I suspect that's what they'll do. And I suspect they've been working the phones pretty hard all day, calling people and letting them and saying, hey, we need you to, vote against any kind of motions like that Matt Gaetz or anybody else would bring forth. But there are several others apparently that have drafted these motions, but Matt's the only one that'll do it. And oddly enough, now they're bringing an ethics charge against him. So it all just kind of fits together. I think that's poor timing.
Well, and it begs the question. I mean, if the Democrats get enough votes to keep Kevin McCarthy in power, if we were to suggest that they're, I imagine that Gates could get 4 or 5 or 6, and maybe you're among them at the end of the day. You said you haven't decided, but you could get enough individuals to force another vote. What does the speaker have to give up to the Democrats? They're going to want something. If
got to. If you hear them talk about it, they got everything they needed in that last voting. I mean, you didn't, as long as you don't dissect those bills and vote for individual spending bills and do all those other things. So we did pass 70% of the appropriations as far as, or 80% of the money. And we should have stayed all weekend and worked on it and fixed it, but we chose not to. So, and they'll push us right up against the Thanksgiving break, like they always do, and then we'll pass an omnibus or another continuing resolution, and we will abdicate our duties once again and not do a budget. So it's just going down.
I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I could get accused of being a little knee jerk in what I'm about to say, Tim. But if Kevin McCarthy doesn't keep y'all there this weekend, then he does need to go. But because if he doesn't understand what's going on, if he can't see it like some jackass in Nashville, Tennessee on the radio, if he doesn't understand what we, the people, already get about where this is going, and you just laid it out, they're going to delay it for 45 days. They're going to hold the Thanksgiving and Christmas break over the heads of the Republican, and they're going to get another omnibus. We're going to do the same thing we've always done. I mean, I'm not mad at you. It's frustrating.
You got people in our conference telling us, hey, here's an idea. Let's just change the name of it. It doesn't have, and the American public won't know. I'm like, what? That is the dumbest. After it leaves your mouth, the American public knows. But that's the kind of mentality we're dealing with right now with some folks. And it just, I just sit here and shake my head.
Well, please, whatever channels you have, and I think that I speak for the listening audience of Super Talk 99.7 WTN when I say this. I think I've got enough understanding of our audience that if McCarthy doesn't have the intestinal fortitude, the cojones to understand the need to keep Congress in session until this is resolved right now, then there is a lack of leadership, and we need to figure something else out.
Well, I tell you what. I mean, I sound like one of these pro wrestlers. I tell you what, Gordon Soley. I'll tell you what. And the redneck just wrecked their pickup trucks. Being a redneck, I'm not racially profiling, but we won't. If we do, we'll call it something else. But we will never pass a budget under this current structure. And we're required to do two things. We're required to do two things: pass a budget and 12 dadgum appropriations bills. And here we've passed 4, and we've acted like we've just done, we've done the Lord's work. And and
like I said to Congressman Desjardins, I understand that Republicans only control the House, and so I understand that you have to work with the other party. But I've been hearing for 24 years, Tim, that I've been doing this. I've heard, well, if we just get all 3, if we get the presidency in both houses. Well, but when you get them, they don't control spending. They had them in 2017, 2018. They didn't do anything with it.
The liberals, they'll spend it on woke programs. And what do? We'll spend it on multi-billion-dollar missile defense systems that we don't need, but people in both parties happen to own stock in the corporations that make them. That's what we're doing. And people need to wake up about what's going on. The uniparty is in power, and they need to realize that.
Well, all right, let's end on a happier note, because I think I know the answer to this question, but I want you to publicly declare it. When was the last time you willingly pulled a fire alarm to open a door?
Never. I was in that building. I was in a double secret meeting with my about 5 conservative guys, and because all the exits were blocked off, and you had to go up on New Jersey, because I remember saying, this is the only time I've been to New Jersey. and because I had to go out the exit on New Jersey, because I ain't never been anywhere, obviously. But and I just figured somebody just went out the door is all they did and opened one of the doors, and because we were in there when it went off, because that's a fire alarm. And I said, yeah, somebody went out the wrong door. And that's what they were doing. The Democrats were trying to delay. They kept bringing people into the well, so you can't call the vote when somebody's in the well. And then they would walk back out, and they just brought in a stream of people. And it's a great delay tactic. Actually, I complimented on it prior to I realized the guy had pulled the fire alarm, but that's a clown show. He'll get a letter of reprimand and probably win by a bigger number in the Bronx, because that's the mentality. We are so dysfunctional. That is what leadership's about, and people are already taking up for the guy.
Hey, real quick, one final question, because two on the super text line have asked this, and I'm curious what your answer would be, Congressman. What is the uniparty?
Wait. I'll give you the answer. I'm happily married. Go ahead.
Someone wants to know, what is the uniparty? How do you define that?
Uniparty is not Democrats or Republicans. It's just kind of the people that stay in control. You know, when the big shots fly in at the airport, the president does, you always see that same person out there, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican. And generally they control the checkbook, and then they control, unbeknownst to a lot of people, they control them. But they keep their little buddies in power, and they stay in power, and nothing changes. We, like I said, we spend the money on woke programs, or we spend it on missile defense systems instead of, and the poor people in Maui, the families get $700 that lost everything. And that's the way it works.
Congressman, thank you for your voice in Washington, D.C. Thank you for the extra time this afternoon. We'll talk again very soon.
Always. Thank you, brother.
There you go. There's Tim Burchett joining us. He has failed to pull a fire alarm all of his life, which is fascinating to me, how he could manage to go through as many doors as he has been through and has not been compelled to pull a fire alarm, as has his Democrat colleagues in the House of Representatives, specifically Representative Jamal Bowman.
It just blows me away that you can hear the disappointment in his own party in his voice.
They will, and this is where my frustration is born from. Even if they don't recognize the necessity to stay in August, even if leadership in the Republican Party thinks that they have some sort of agreement to deal with the 12 appropriations bills leading up to the end of the fiscal year on September 30th, they should be fully aware of the game plan. This dunderhead in Nashville is aware of the game plan. It's not that difficult. I was publicly educated in Georgia. I'm not that smart. Democrats are going to play out the string. They're going to use the willingness of the Republicans to allow them to do it to their advantage. They're going to get to the week before Thanksgiving. They're not going to flinch. They're not going to move, because they know their voters don't care. And they're going to beg the Republicans to do something about it. And the Republicans won't. And the Republicans will come to us, the American people, yet again, and tell us how we don't control the White House and we don't control the Senate. And if you would just give us all three, if you would just give us the House and the Senate and the White House, we'd get something done about it. And when you get that, because I've been there and done that, when you give them all three, they complain that you haven't given them 60 votes in the Senate. Well, we can't do anything, and the Democrats are going to filibuster. There's always a frickin' excuse. And I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of their excuses. In the meantime, they fly home on taxpayer dollars to be with their families and to go on their vacations and to get it, and their paychecks aren't threatened. They work for us. And sadly, the bosses are asleep at the wheel. Not you. Not you. You're the smartest listeners on planet Earth. But not enough people are paying attention to what they're doing. And yes, the Republicans are a part of the problem. If this is my line, my personal line in the sand. I'm done with this dude. I should have been done with him years ago. But I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I try to accept the fact that there aren't enough conservatives in Washington, D.C. to elect a conservative speaker, which is what happened, right? there are so few conservatives in D.C., you've got to get this mealy-mouthed moderate to lead your party as speaker. And I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I tried to give him enough rope. Well, he hung himself. And here's the deal. If they go home this weekend, screw them. I don't know how I can put it any more plainly. If Kevin McCarthy sends his party home this weekend without working through the weekend and getting it done, recognizing that you have to give yourself enough time to blame the Democrats for not moving on the bills that you put in front of the Senate, you go home this weekend, you're not taking this seriously, and I ought to already know that you're not taking this seriously. But that's my line in the sand. I'm so sick of it. You have to understand, we have to get why don't the Democrats have this problem? Now, I understand they don't think for themselves and they're a bunch of lemmings. Okay, I answered my own question. I just don't understand, if you call yourself a Republican, why at some point you don't get sick of losing. Because the cocktail parties are always there, aren't they? Aren't they? Because the flights are always free, aren't they? Because the junkets overseas, where you get to take family vacations on taxpayer dimes, they're always there, aren't they? Because you're always able to overspend to buy yourself another term in office, aren't you? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Blow it up. I don't care.